really know how to do an introduction to this one, so let's just go straight in. What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Rico the Acronym, and it's time for Rico's Rants. Today, I want to talk about a documentary I just watched. It's a snow day here in Memphis. That's why I'm in my nice little cozy robe. I just watched this documentary called Hell Camp: Teenage Nightmare on Netflix. And the triggers were hit. Triggers were hit. I didn't realize that was going to happen. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't have watched it. Not saying it's a bad documentary or anything, but I wasn't ready for all that today. And yeah, yeah. First of all, the camps that are portrayed in the movie are way worse than anything I experienced. I definitely did not experience a lot of what happened to those kids. Emotionally, we definitely went through a lot of the same stuff. But as far as like getting beat, tied to trees, things like that, I didn't go through none of that. I went to a camp that my dad picked out for me. It wasn't my choice or anything like that. It was more like a, hey, Rico, this is what you're doing this summer. Pick from one of these 3 or 4 choices. And the one that I picked was one in Minnesota out of Duluth. And, I went back and looked at the website, and it looks like something that you would send a kid that's really into the outdoors and really into nature, like some kid that's probably going to grow up to be like a park ranger or something. You would send them up there to have a good time, or maybe if your kid's in Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, something like that. At the time, I wasn't in the Boy Scouts. I did have a Boy Scout past. My mom had me in the Boy Scouts, but my mom had passed about 5 months before I went on this trip. Watching this documentary made me realize like one of the big reasons my dad even decided to send me to this camp, which was that, a lot of people thought these were camps to send kids to that had gone through a whole bunch of stuff or was like on the edge or something like that. So, keep that in mind while I'm telling you what I went through. Now, like I said, mine was a 30-day thing out of Minnesota. Like, we're like basically canoeing all around the Great Lakes area and everything. They got us to this base camp, and then they like split us up into like 3 or 4 different little factions. Or I think they actually split us up at the airport, but I forgot. Anyway, it was so long ago, so some of this stuff is going to be really spotty. My apologies. Yeah, so we get to the base camp, and we get our packs and everything, and I think we spend the first night actually at the base camp. Maybe we didn't. I don't remember, honestly. We get split up into groups, and basically we go about our 30-day wilderness adventure. Border Waters, I believe, is what mine was called. And we had 2 camp counselors, a lady and a dude. I imagine they did that so that there wasn't any kind of, any opportunity for any dumb stuff to happen, if you know what I mean. And from what I understand, nothing like that happened, at least on my trip, my excursion with anybody I was with. I haven't talked to those people in, God, years. I only remember one girl's name, actually, because it was me, this dude who went to boarding school. His parents just kind of sent him around and stuff. I remember him telling me the story. He was cool with it, but it sounded sad. Another dude who was a Boy Scout. I guess he was there to get some badges or something. He seemed like he kind of wanted to be there. Another girl who was there, I believe, on the order of her parole officer. And then another girl that was there on the orders of her psychiatrist. And so, nice little mixed bag of people. Now, unlike what was portrayed in the documentary, mine wasn't, if you act up, you stay longer or anything like that. It was very much like 30 days, in and out, da 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 da. The similarities came to, you had a lot of team building exercises. You had a lot of, hey, if we don't do this together, then we're all going to suffer kind of things. It wasn't really a punishment thing per se. It was more of like reality. It was more like, hey, if, this isn't made the right way and the whole thing falls down, then, we all end up suffering. But the one similarity that caught me by the throat watching this documentary was the solo portion of this, because the excursion I went on had a solo portion where we went to this big lake. I forgot what the name of the lake was. It wasn't one of the Great Lakes, but it was a big lake, and basically everybody had their part of the lake. And like we were canoeing this whole we're hiking and canoeing this whole time. So mind you, that's how we got, soloed, was basically you canoed to a part of the lake, and they gave you your sleeping bag, a tarp, a bug net, and a big bag of trail mix, and you're there for like 3 4 days on this solo excursion. And that's I don't think that's a good idea for teenagers. Not to say that teenagers are incapable of taking care of themselves, but in nature, like, shit happens, yo. And I'm sure what I'm about to say, nobody's gonna believe. And in all honesty, I don't really give a shit if you believe me or not, because it happened to me. I experienced it. And it is what it is. But I believe, first or second night on my solo excursion, the first night, I set up my bug net, and my bug net fell down. Now, mind you, I'm in Minnesota in the Great Lakes area. If you know anything about Minnesota in the Great Lakes area, those mosquitoes are like kamikaze mosquitoes. They don't give a damn, and they are thick up there, thick and big. And so I woke up looking straight like Candyman. I was bit from head, like I was bit everywhere because my bug net fell down. So now I'm bit all to hell. I believe, like I said, I believe it was the second night, or maybe it was the first night as well, where I'm asleep and I hear and I'm thinking to myself, there's only one thing this can be. There's no way that there's no way this excursion is one of these things where they're like mentally messing with me. I can feel the heaviness of something walking not far away from me. I'm not going to say it was right next to me sniffing me or anything like that. It definitely wasn't, because I don't know what I would have did. I'm still surprised I kept it as cool as I did with what happened, but I know I had taken a shit earlier that day. And I bet you, more than likely, I did not take that shit far enough away from where I was sleeping. And I did not see it, but I heard it, and I felt the heaviness of a bear. Now, as a grown man, I think about this and I go, what would have happened if 14-year-old Rico would have got up and ran? Maybe even did something stupid and tried to say swim away from a bear. I wouldn't be here right now to even be. I would have never found out what YouTube was. I would have never found out. I would have never ever seen an iPhone. I would have been dead. So when I saw the girl in the documentary and her solo excursion and what she went through with being, molested by the dude, whoa. I didn't even consider that a possibility. Like, you know what I'm saying? What if? You know what I mean? Now, I will say the other thing that also I really identified with, I didn't get my abuse from the counselors like the kids in the documentary did. The kids in the documentary got direct abuse from the counselors, the people that were charged with their, well-being. My counselors were cool. There were times where it was, people had to, pick up after other folks that just like couldn't do it. That excursion was the first time I ever experienced the smell of something called foot rot or trench foot. We all got it. We all had to experience it. We all had to make it through 30 days of hiking with, in and out of canoes and all this other stuff. And we had to maintain that stuff and learn how not to get it, learn how to keep our socks dry and everything. And this isn't something where you got like a nurse nearby. Like, yeah, the counselors were first aid trained or whatever, but like worse things can happen. And we're out there with, like I said, at best, some first aid trained people that looking back on it weren't that much older than us. Like, I'm 14. I think the oldest person there that was like the parents that sent them there was maybe 15, maybe 16. And the counselors was like early 20s, mid 20s. So nobody's too far away from the other one age wise. The abuse and the shittiest feeling about going on these wilderness retreats is that your parents sent you there to quote unquote get better, but all you came back traumatized. Most of us did. Like that there's a lot of people that, oh, it made my life better, straightened me out, da da da, this and that. But like, did it? Did it straighten you out, or did it just teach you that there was consequences for your actions? Because I already knew there was consequences for my actions. To this day, I'm still trying to figure out why my dad even thought it was a smart idea to send his son, who had just lost his mother, grandfather, and great grandmother in like 2 months. I don't know why he would think that was a smart move. And the only thing I can come down to is lazy parenting, or parents that feel like they can't do it and somebody else can, as far as like straightening their kid out. I don't know about a lot of the kids that were in the documentary, but I know that this was probably one of the last things I needed in my teenage pubescent life. The last thing I needed was to be shuttled off to Minnesota to go through 30 days of canoeing. Mind you, like, I wasn't in the Boy Scouts at the time. I had been in the Boy Scouts before. I had been on hikes, you know what I'm saying, overnight hikes and stuff before. But I'm talking like a weekend and extremely supervised. I'm not just, two mid 20-year olds with first aid training. I'm talking about guys that's been hiking up in the woods and all that for like majority of their life. Like my Boy Scout leader was this. I'm talking about old dude, but he could hike up that mountain though. Regardless of all that, I imagine my dad thought that I was so traumatized from what had happened to me that that was a good idea, but it wasn't. It wasn't, and to this day, I'm still mad at him about that, because while I was in Minnesota learning how to survive, he was in Prague going to see the Rolling Stones, which is why to this day I still don't really like the Rolling Stones. Like, I respect them as musicians and everything like that and as legends, but if you throw in some Rolling Stones, and a lot of these kids, and I really identified with at the end when everyone's like, this thing really did have an effect on me as an adult, because I know how to survive now, because I was put in a position where I had to survive. And some people would say, well, isn't that a good thing, Rico? Isn't that like kind of dope that you got that early? And to those people I say no, I didn't need to learn how to survive like that. You know what I mean? Like, we all need to learn how to survive in this world, absolutely, but to that kind of extreme, I don't think it was necessary. I think I would have been better off without it, honestly. Because to this day, I haven't been camping since. I haven't really been in the woods and did any hiking. I like hiking in the city. I don't even hike in the woods. I don't really even like the woods like that no more. Like, I can appreciate it if it's like cityfied, you know what I'm saying? Like a cabin in the woods, some stuff, right off the highway, something like that. But like, actually getting out there and canoeing and hiking and all that, man. Yeah, yeah, nah, that's not really me. And I can say that this experience kind of fucked it up for me. And if it's one thing I'll definitely take away from watching that documentary, is that as adults we have got to stop comparing what we went through as kids to what kids can possibly put up with now. Because I could easily be like, well, I went through the Outward Bound program and da da da, and I learned how to do this and that, and it made me so this and that. And then I have kids and they become a little rambunctious, a little buck wild, and now all of a sudden I think it's a smart idea to send them on a 30-day camping trip. Come on now. I never want my kids to feel that thrown away, I never. especially, I wasn't causing that much trouble. I was getting a little wild here and there, but I wasn't doing anything to where I needed to be sent away. And I'm sure a lot of the kids that were sent to the camps worse than mine, you know, they didn't really need to be there either. They just needed someone to love on them. They needed someone to care about them. They needed someone to not want to just shovel them off to somebody else to fix them and then bring them back this fixed and wonderful child. Like, here you go. Like, no, you got to build that. And you don't build it by sending them off somewhere else. So to all the parents that are seeing this and have considered sending their kids to something like that, like, make sure your kid wants to go. If your kid sees that stuff and is like, nah, that's not for me, it's not for them. Find another way. If you think they need therapy, send them to therapy. If you think they need, guidance, guide them. Put them around other people that can guide them that are, within reach. But sending them out to these camps and all this stuff, it seems lazy and it seems heartless. It seems very much like you don't really care about your kids. That's how I felt anyway. And my dad's not here anymore for me to even ask him if he gave a fuck or not. So I got to live with that now. Don't do that to your kids, okay? And if you've been to one of these programs or anything and you've had some experiences you want to talk about, hit me in the comments. Let me know what's going on. And of course, like, subscribe, do all that wonderful stuff. Man, y'all be cool with it. I'm going to make the next one funny. I'm going to make the next one upbeat because this one was a little bit of a downer. So I'm going to go enjoy another snow day. Peace out.